Good afternoon. We resume our lecture again. What we'll be discussing in this particular session is there are some advantages in going to good practices. And if you remember right, I had mentioned to you that in one of the earlier lectures, there are certain national awards available. One of them is called the Baldrige Award, the other is called the Deming Award. Then there is the European Quality Award. And of course, in India, we have this award called the Rajiv Gandhi Quality Award. Now, there are certain advantages in winning these awards. First of all, it lifts your practices up to a certain level when it becomes world class in a certain area. That's a pretty big advantage. Not only to know that you have a PhD or you have a master's or something like that. Not only for that purpose. That of course has its benefits. Your process begins to benefit, your customers begin to benefit, and so on and so forth. It's also a huge marketing tool, plus you get recognized as a benchmark company. And that's a pretty high gain. It's an intangible gain, but it's a pretty high gain in terms of the standing of the company in industry, for example. I'll be giving you some examples. What are some of these awards? We start out by saying the key US award, which is called the Baldrige Award. This is Malcolm Baldrige. He was one of the senators in the US, and he at some point in time he decided that he wanted to set a benchmark, and he came up with this award called the Baldrige Award. He had a committee to work with him and so on, and that award was instituted in the US. And many US companies, they want to be audited for this, and if the auditors feel okay, then they will award this award. Then of course there is the Japanese award, which is called the Deming Award. The Baldrige Award is based mostly on TQM practices. It tries to find out how close your operation is to what we call TQM, what is recognized to be the full gamut of TQM. The Deming Award is quite different. The Deming Award focuses on statistical methods, and I'm going to be giving you some of the examples. And you'll notice at that point that there is a difference actually in either going for the Deming Award or for the Baldrige Award. The Deming Award actually was the first major award that was put together, and that's an international award. Any company can apply for it and get it. And there are some Indian companies also. TVS Suzuki, for example, they have won the Deming Award. And the Baldrige Award is established by the US Congress, and it is again a recognition for good practices. There are many statewide awards, and these are like European awards. India has certain awards, and some of the other countries also, they have their own national awards, and that provide recognition. But this should not be the primary goal of the company. The goal really should be the path to improved quality, path toward improved quality. And if you look at the Baldrige Award, the criteria basically is summarizing TQM. And there are certain aspects that are looked at once somebody goes for the Baldrige Award. Leadership is one criteria that someone looks at. Strategic planning is something that the auditors look at. Customer focus and market focus. Information and analysis, how information is utilized. Human resource development, what are the initiatives taken by the company toward going this way. And also process management, how good the company is toward process management, and business results. Of course, notice business results is not part of TQM, but they have added it here, because only then one could really say it's worth going for this award. It's a US national award, as I mentioned, started in 1987, and some details are given there. The auditors use a 7-category 1,000-point scoring system. So it's based on a scoring system, and the scoring system would look at leadership, information, and so on and so forth. The same thing is there. And let me give you an example. Leadership, for example, contributes 100 points. It really looks at senior executive leadership, quality values, the way they are projected by senior leadership, management for quality, are they really managing toward quality, public responsibility, that's like another dimension that's looked at, and clearly active involvement that is there, and management stands out as the models for excellence. Intimate knowledge of how the work actually gets done, that's also important in this particular clause here. Impressive listening skills, this is something that is really desired by top management. And skill level communication. Information and analysis, this is where you begin to get into looking at quality data and quality information and comparative comparisons and benchmark. This is also something where you are utilizing information and you're utilizing an analysis. And the analysis of quality data and information, this is by far the foremost use of this approach. This clause looks at that. It must demonstrate facts-based management. Fact-based is basically any decisions that you make, those are based on facts on some rational basis. And the information must be comprehensive, accessible, and well validated. There is something that is looked at by the auditors. It's a enabler of change, and it's a benchmarking method. That's how it is done. Strategic quality planning. This is like, this contributes 60 points. And there are certain planning processes which are utilized here. Quality goals and plans, have they been spelled out by the company? Human resource utilization. How exactly are you getting your people ready for, moving for a march toward top-notch quality? Involvement, quality education, employee recognition and performance measurement, employee well-being and morale. That's also something that is looked at. And you try to unleash the full potential of the workforce. That is something that you try to do. Quality training involves all these things. They are like problem solving, group process skills, job specific skills, and so on and so forth. And it is very, very important that those who are being empowered, they should feel that they have been empowered. This is also the measure for empowerment. That also is looked at when you look at the total rating for human resource management. Then of course, quality assurance of products and services. And this would lead to 140 points. Design and introduction of quality products and services, process quality control, continuous improvement of processes, quality assessment, and so on and so forth. All these are there. And the emphasis is really on the process. That's what the emphasis is. Quality results. What are the results of your quality efforts? Product and service quality results. What are the business process and operational and support service quality results that also are looked at. Support quality results are looked at. Look for meaning trends. Meaning trends are basically those things that are really implying that certain improvements are taking place, certain impact is there because of your quality incentives. Sustained improvements on critical measures. This is like something over a period of time, and if it shows up over 3 years, that actually means you've really taken some actions which have had lasting impact. Use of statistical method to correlate the objective quality results, which are like assessment through data, with measures of customer satisfaction. So now you're looking at a correlation between your quality results and how satisfied the customer is. Very, very important. Customer satisfaction, this has got the highest thing, because if you remember, TQM, one of the foundations of TQM is strong customer orientation, and what we are really looking at there is, are the customers really delighted with the business that we are running, the profit, the products that we offer them, and the service that we provide them. Determining customer requirements and expectations, by far the starting point of this. Customer relationship management, customer service standards, commitment to customers, complaint resolution. These are all basic, very basic and good customer relationship management. Determining customer satisfaction, also getting some assessment there. Customer satisfaction results, what are the results of you're trying to satisfy the customer? Customer satisfaction comparison, that also is something that you got to be able to do. And in some cases, they compare it to other people also who are in the same game. You try to find customer information from a wide variety of sources, focus groups, surveys, and so on. Are you doing all these things? And what are the results? Are there some records that you can display? The measures are objective and they are validated. They are not by hearsay. It's not something that will be accepted. This was one way to try to manage quality, the Baldrige Award. There is another way to try to manage quality. This is to go after the Deming Prize. And this really, the focus really here is on statistical quality control. The different methods, like for example, I mentioned SPC, use of 7 tools, DOE, any of these things that actually lead to use of statistical methods. For example, there is an Indian company that utilizes DOE quite regularly in process improvement studies. So you could really say, have they won 6 Sigma? Yes, they could reach 6 Sigma. If it's that kind of process, they could probably reach 6 Sigma. But they are using advanced statistical methods, and therefore actually this particular company has won the Deming Prize. Employee-driven quality, what concept is this? Basically, it really says employees themselves, they are driving the quality. How are they doing it? What are the enablers? Training is by far the very important one. Basic job skills, this is taken for granted. You got to have these things. Then of course tools for continuous improvement, SPC and these things. These are all required for the employees to become drivers of quality. Then cross training, knowing each other's function. This also is very, very important. Without doing these things, they won't really appreciate what the impact is for their not doing something right on the next step. That also they will not understand unless there is this cross training. This is so beneficial you would not believe, because many times what happens when these stages of production are passed over to the next stage, when a person has worked in department A and also department B, he knows what the first department must do in order to make sure that the job in the second department is easier, or they can meet their own quality targets. This is very, very important. The old approach is basically you exploit labor. You hire unskilled labor, you try to exploit them as much as you can. And what that really does is, there's something that you always require when you require employees to deliver what we call quality. They must be able to take pride in their workmanship. If they're able to take pride in their workmanship, they'll obviously try to deliver quality. That is something that goes without saying. And as I said before, cross-training is also a great way to build better understanding across the different departments. There is the European model, and the European model also is founded on basically the TQM. TQM is also there as the foundation for this. So the European model also is very much like the Baldrige model, for example, not very different from it. And it also establishes a management system by which we measure excellence, and we try to understand gaps, and we try to stimulate solutions. This is something we try to do. And there again, people have found, those who have gone for the European Quality Management Award, they have also shown improved organizational results. This has been verified by independent research. So in fact, these awards are not just for hanging a little, memento on the wall. It's not for that reason. It does produce results, and these have been verified by third-party people. Third-party people have gone in, they have said, okay, you guys had this award, and now you've been operating under this for a while. Show me the situation before this award was won by you, and show me the results now. If I see a correlation, then of course I'll know that yes, that winning that award, it had an impact on you. That has been seen. That has been seen in many places. The European model, it can be used in 4 ways. It can help people develop a vision and goals for a future that is tangible, and it's going to be measurable also. The future is going to be measurable and also tangible. It's also a way to understand the systemic nature of business. A system is something that consists of components, and together all components together, they try to deliver a composite function. They try to deliver a function which is the function of the system. This is very important in the systems know-how. So a system acknowledges that the system is made up of components. The components themselves, they have their own functions. But what is important is that the components come together and form this complete function. This complete function is what the system is there for. And this is the systems orientation. So you have analysis involved here, you've also got synthesis involved here. That's the systems view of things. That is appreciated once you go into this framework and you start managing your way using the European quality model. A process to allow a company to recognize its most successful customer experience. What was the time when they achieved the highest customer satisfaction? What was that time? What was that incident? What was that? Can it be recorded? Can it be made into a case? I need that because I want to be able to promote that practice across the organization. This is something very, very important. In fact, it is something that is so important that I've got to always compare the target and the mission statement that I've set for the company. And this can be done only when I have delightful customer experiences and I've documented them. I've written down exactly what happened. What did I do to achieve that level of customer satisfaction? It's also a self-management tool, self-assessment tool by which you can assess yourself and you can really figure out how good or bad I am and what is the gap between where I want to be and where I am right now. How do you use the model? There's a framework, and the framework has 9 criteria, and the criteria actually are divided into 4 parts. 5 are enablers. Enablers actually, they try to enable the company to do what it wants to do. And the results are basically, they cover the areas that the organizations or the aspects that the organizations want to achieve. So there are two. One, the doing part, then the results part. These are two parts which are there in the framework, in the European framework. The results are caused by the enablers. And the feedback from the results back to the enablers is used to try to improve the enablers. So there are like two types of criteria used here. One is for enablers, the other is for results. And they kind of feed into each other. The enablers would lead to good results, and when there are good results, if there are not so good results, then of course those are used as feedback to try to improve the enablers. And the model recognizes the approaches to achieve sustainable excellence in all aspects of performance. This is like, again, you could see the spirit of TQM hidden behind. Then of course, in this country, in India, we have something called the Rajiv Gandhi National Quality Award, or the RGNQA. This is named after the late Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi for the thrust that he had given to quality movement in India so it could move into the 21st century with pride. That was something that was instilled by Rajiv Gandhi. It was like something that was not there before. I would not say it was not existing at all, because we built the Taj Mahal, we built all these fabulous temples, and we have fine cuisine, and we've got fine textile, we've got a lot of other stuff that we have really excelled in, and we are the best in the world. There's no doubt at all. But are those also seen in practices, in our factories, in our railways, in our and airlines and so on and so forth, in our postal services? Are they seen there? So for that we needed a model again, and that model was propagated by installing this Rajiv Gandhi, this RGNQA award. What does it do? It's managed by the Bureau of Indian Standards. They started this in 1991. They basically manage it. They encourage Indian manufacturing and service organizations to strive for excellence. And specifically, this particular award recognizes leaders in the quality movement in India. There are a lot of things happening in the country. And there are certain leaders who are really emphasizing quality. And those are the people who are, they are judged for this quality award, and they are awarded this particular prize. The intention here is to drive Indian products and services to a higher level of quality that can meet the challenges not only in the domestic market, but also in export market. We talk of improvement in Japanese products. We know that in the 50s, Japanese products were perhaps not so good. Even in the 60s, when I, drove some Japanese cars, around 1967, 68, 69 and so on, I remember the old Datsun cars. They would rust, they would not perform very well and so on and so forth. Those were small cars, so yes, they had the fuel economy. They were not like the huge, the Chevys and the Impalas and so on. They were not like those. They were smaller cars. So they gave fuel economy, but in many other respects, they were not that good. But the Japanese cars started to improve, and today look at, they are the winners in the world. They have what we call the Toyotas, they have the Lexus and so on and so forth, and they have the Acuras and so on. So these are like benchmark cars today, worldwide. So Japanese products have improved. You look at Chinese products. Chinese products, I remember, Chinese battery cells would sell for 1 rupee a piece. They would not last more than maybe half a day. If you use them somewhere, if the person knew you were using a Chinese battery, they would probably say, please don't put it on a watch, on a clock, on the wall, because I'll have to climb back. After a week, I'll have to climb back and change that battery there. Because the Chinese battery just doesn't last. That was the story not too long ago. I'll say 4 or 5 years ago. I saw pretty shoddy Chinese goods on Canal Street in New York City. And I wondered, actually, is there a market for these things? Funnily enough, even in the US, there's a market for these things. So in fact, many of these shoddy products, they were made in China. They did not have made in China written on them, but you knew pretty well that these plastic parts, they came from China. Those also were not so good. But look at today's Chinese parts. A lot of cameras, very fine cameras, they're made in China. Probably the lens is imported from Japan, but the body and the case and everything, molding and all, it's all been done in China. And a lot of other things are there, but the Chinese are competing nearly with the best in the world today. What about Indian products? You look at Indian TVs. Indian TVs made 10 years ago, the ones that you could buy in the marketplace, or Indian telephones. You look at the ones that were made 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they were pretty well what you and I would call trash. Really, if you have a few of those clunkers still sitting somewhere in the closet in your house there, you probably never would even bother dusting them because they were useless pretty well. But what happened? As the market opened up, this happened with the initiative that our Prime Minister took. And then the Finance Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he opened up the marketplace. We went into this reform and so on, that the tariff barriers started to come down, and with that, there were a whole lot of imports that could come in, and we could afford the imports because the tariff had been brought down. And we started tasting, Indians started tasting the quality of good imported products. Now, many Indians who traveled abroad, we had seen good products. There was no problem there. We saw very fine fountain pens, we saw very fine electronic goods and so on and so forth. We bought some Sony, Sony electronic stuff. We bought the Asahi Pentax cameras and Nikons and so on. All those we had seen abroad. But sitting here, not many Indians had seen good quality, so they actually carried along with their shoddy products. There was no real issue there. But the moment reform came along, financial reform came along, we started seeing a flood of foreign products. And obviously, when they were on the shelf, Indians would go and buy them. And the result is today, if you look at an Indian product today, it's as good as a foreign product. As good as a foreign product. If you lay them side by side, you would not really know which one is Indian, which one is not. For this, all you have to do is go out to an appliance store and look at an Indian-made washing machine or a refrigerator or any of these appliances. They're as good as the ones that are sold in New York or Europe or anywhere. There's no difference at all. And look at Indian cars. Look at the performance of the Indian cars. And they match neck to neck for the conditions in which they operate. They match performance neck to neck with foreign imported cars. Not the top of the line. Not many American cars can match, I would say, BMWs. The typical American car on the road will never match the quality of the BMW, for example. So an Indian car also will not match the quality of BMW. It will not. But you compare that to a Korean car, not much different actually. So Indian cars have also improved, and that has happened because people have recognized, consumers have recognized quality. And this is what has driven competition. And awards like this, like the RGA and QA award, this recognizes such effort. This is actually helping industry. This has already helped industry. It has tried to help maximize customer satisfaction. This is something it has done. It is recognizing achievements of organizations which have improved quality to set an example for others. Establishing guidelines and criteria for industry. This is also something that has been happening quite rapidly, providing guidance to organizations that are willing to learn from the experience of others who have done it very well. And the Rajiv Gandhi Award, it's modeled after the US Malcolm Baldrige Award. So again, we are talking about world-class awards. What exactly is then employee-driven quality? There's like another aspect that I want to bring out here, organization. And one very important thing here is the contact with the customer, contact with the supplier and contact with the customer. Let me give you an example. Many times what happens is the person who is doing the job is probably working on some aspect of a motorcycle that is being assembled, for example. If this mechanic, if he has no contact with the user of the motorcycle, he will not have the same sensitivity as a person who is in direct contact with the user, or unless he is using that motorcycle himself in his house, for example. Only then he will know what it feels like when you look at a product which has been made by a factory, has been shipped to him, and he is now the customer. This is very important. I have seen many instances when the company somehow has not brought the workers in direct face-to-face contact with the customer. The customer then really is far away. He's kind of some mysterious, nebulous thing that exists somewhere. He's an abstract thing. And the worker really has no real idea about the true feeling that the customer really has when he's using the product. I'm giving you an example. For example, when a lady prepares a dish and she serves you, You know, she does not keep looking at the dish itself. She looks at your face. When you start eating, when you pick up the spoon and you pick up your fork and start eating, she watches your face. What is your expression? Does your expression change? If it changes, if it becomes like something that's more pleasant, she feels that she's done a good job. Today she's delivered. Or when, you know, people come home, for example, and something special is served, what does the lady watch? She watches the expressions on the face of the kids and her husband and so on and so forth. And from that, she gets the signal. Has she done a good job? Has she really been able to get that strike of delight and that sparkle in the eyes of the people who are there to enjoy her product? This is something very important. You're coming direct face-to-face contact with the customer, the consumer. And this is there can be no better feedback than this. This is something that we have to enable. We have to make sure we do that. And that's part of employee-driven quality. And after that, you don't have to drive quality. You don't have to tell the lady, please prepare your dishes better. You don't have to do that. Many times, cooks in restaurants, they come out. You might have noticed these chefs, they walk around once in a while. They're just watching people. They're watching people here and there. How are people enjoying their food? Are they really, are they really having a good time? They watch this. Because that's their signal, that's their feedback. You might think they have just come out of the hot kitchen just to cool off. It's not just that. They're also keeping an eye on the results of their product, for example, the results of their labor. So this is then what becomes employee-driven quality. It's very, very important. And of course, we can also do that by forming quality circles and cells and teams and project teams and so on and so forth. And this is also something very, very important in order for us to raise the sensitivity of people who drive quality. Recognizing quality again, benchmarking. If you do benchmarking, again, you become one of those people who then become benchmark himself. That's a pretty good recognition that you're doing that. And in many companies, this is done quite frequently. They will go out and they'll try to make sure that if they've done something good, it is known to people, it is known to the organizations that are industry associations and so on and so forth. So their good work, it gets some publicity and so on and so forth. That's very, very good for people. There are certain benchmarking processes and steps again, and I've laid it out in the slide, and you can read them at your own time. There is no real problem there. And there are certain things that really lead to good improvements. And I have personally seen how good practices in benchmarking, they lead to really, really good quality. I've seen that. Let me give you one example. You might just think this is just a story. There was one company that made, if you look at an electronic device, like for example, I keep picking up my cell phone here. Inside the cell phone, there is like a printed circuit board, and on which there are mounted all these little transistors, resistors and so on. There are some ICs and chips and so on. They are mounted inside. These components are soldered on the board. So the board is there, and on that they stick in all these components. So the components are stuck there. And underneath, of course, they apply some solder so that the connections take place. Now, this is done today automatically. But not too long ago, these components were pretty big and the printed circuit was pretty simple and so on and so forth. And people did manual soldering. So they would take a soldering gun and they would solder joint A, then joint B, then joint C and so on. That's how it was done. In fact, many older two-wheelers, these are motorcycles, for example, those were actually manufactured this way. The electronic components, they were hand soldered and they were put in the vehicle then. There was one company that was in the business of producing these electronic parts for motorcycles. And they called me once in a while for some quality problems. I was a quality expert around in that town there. I won't name the town right now. I'll do that in some other lecture, some other occasion I'll do that. But they invited me many times to come over and help them with their things. So I did some training and so on. And once in a while, I'd give some guidance on the shop practices also. They took me out there. They said, Professor, we have a lot of problems with our quality there. And there is something that we really got to do around here. That's to fix this. So would you please help us? I said, fine. Can I take a look at your operation? I said, yes, you're very welcome. So I went out there and I found a whole bunch of these guys. They were doing the hand soldering. I said, have you thought of doing anything different now? He said, yes, we have another unit, by the way, which is like next door in the next room there. And there we got an automatic machine that also does this automatic soldering. And I said, oh, okay, let's go out and see that. And again, I saw that room there where the automatic welding machine, the soldering machine was there. And following that, there was another room. And in this room, there were people who were fixing the output of the first department, which actually had come out of the automated machine. And they're doing all these touch-up solderings on the same parts. The parts had come out of the machine, and then these guys, they were sitting there with their soldering guns, and they're doing the touch-ups here, touch-ups there, and so on, because many joints apparently had not formed correctly by the automated machine. My God, I said, these people, they spent so much money in getting this automated soldering system, and it is not doing the job. I should be able to help. I am an expert in quality. I really said to myself, I've got to think about this. So the first thing I thought of was, being a staunch believer in Six Sigma and design of experiments and so on, I said maybe I'll run some experiments with their process conditions and see if I could reduce the number of defects they have. I thought of doing that. And I started doing a little bit of Mickey Mouse trials here and there. Okay, let's change the temperature, let's change the belt speed, let's change this, that, and see what happens. And I had a couple of students also helping me, and they said, sir, yes, but the defect levels are so high, we've got to really take some big step. And it seems like one very sharp observation made by one of the students was, sir, the people are not very well involved. They are not very closely involved in this thing. They just come to work, they do their soldering here and there and so on. They do some QC checks, then they walk away. And they don't really feel that there's a piece of them, there's a part of them that is now a part of that product here. They don't feel that way. They're like just they're doing the job. So somehow we have to get the people involved. And I thought about it. I said, okay, I see. We have to wake people up. Somehow we've got to wake them up. We have to really open their eyes. And let's see how we can do that. I had a friend who ran a similar outfit, but he was not making motorcycle electronic parts. He was not doing that. He was doing it for some radio or something. He had another company there. It was also a small manufacturing company. They produced these transistor radios and stuff like that. They also had an automatic soldering machine. I said, okay, first let me find out what the defect rate is with their automatic soldering system. So this friend of mine who had this radio assembly company there, I went out there and I asked him, can you tell me how good is this machine? I didn't say what kind of defects you produce. I just said, how good is this machine? Is this machine really any good, or is it as bad as doing hand soldering? I said, no, the machine is pretty good. And in fact, if you want, take a look at it. And it's doing a fine job. I went out there and of course I took a look at it and I was pretty satisfied. And the thing that I looked for was, were they doing any touch-ups? No, there was no touch-up. There was a QC department and that produced a few defective things that they separated. But there was no real massive touch-up as they had in the first company, the one that made the motorcycle electronic components. Then I came back to the motorcycle company and I said, gang, we want to go out for a trip and I'd like to take about 8-10 of you, maybe about 7-8 people from the shop floor and a couple of their supervisors and one manager type. We're going to hire a minibus and we're going to ride to this other town, and there's a company there that also has a very similar operation. We'll just go and take a look. What is it that they are doing? They have a similar operation. Let's just go and take a look. Maybe they are just as bad as us or something like that. I made up a little story. We went out there and we landed in this new company there. The guys who made the radio parts there, and there was this glass wall, and of course inside was the automated machine. It was running on its own. It had the flow of things taking place. It just went from the left, went to the right. Then these people, they said, sir, okay, now where does the output go? It is coming out there. What is happening on this side? Can we go and take a look at that side? So they went out there. They thought they were expecting actually a huge touch-up room there. They were expecting, like they had in their own company, that a touch-up room there. They were expecting that touch-up room there. My God, there was no touch-up room. And there was a small QC person. He was doing some little QC. But there was no real touch-up room there. There was no like massive fixing, rework of the boards that had been passed on by the first stage of the production operation. They said, sir, this can't be possible. How is this? And I said, okay, spend some more time. So we were there And if you've been to NASA, if you've been to Dallas, or if you've been to even Kennedy Center or some other place, if you've seen any of these space, where they from where they control the satellites and so on, it's like a large, very large room with a lot of TV screens around, and there's a visitors area, and in between there's this huge sheet of glass, and then of course the controller is sitting there. They have got their consoles and screens and so on. There are some very large displays on the wall. They are like the movie screen we have in the back there, that sort of thing. Huge things with big displays there, and the satellite movements and so on, those are all getting displayed there. The visitor cannot get there, and there is this huge wall in between. So the visitor can go there, he can just watch what is going on. You go there and stand there for 10, 12, 15 minutes, you watch some satellites flying here and there, and you see the controllers in action, then you come away. This was the same thing that was done in that company there. So these visitors would come from that motorcycle company. They watched this operation that was going on, just as if they were watching this space show there. After about an hour or so, there was time to go and get some tea. And I was sitting with them in a separate area. And they were speechless. They were just speechless. So how could it be? How could it be that they have similar looking machine and it's not working there at all? And this is the point here is benchmarking. They could physically see an operation that was similar to theirs, but with much better performance. It made them believers. Yes, this can be done. Maybe it will take something for us to change to that level, but yes, it can be done because it is real. I can see it. I just wanted to tell you this little story about making a big impact on quality by getting people involved, getting them to think, yes, they can also improve. They can also get up there. I can give another little example, and that is from IIT. You know, we take a little bit of pride. We are not perfect teachers. We are like anybody else. Most teachers today, they have a PhD, so we also have a PhD. And yes, some of us probably spend a few more hours in our offices. We probably have some more experiments that we do. Probably we read a few more books, few more journals. That's what we do in IIT, which probably is not possible because of various other distractions in a small engineering college. But we are very similar. We are like any one of them. There are some teachers that are sent to IITs as QIP students, and they come here to improve their quality. Basically, quality of their teaching and some extra subject they learn about and domain and so on and so forth. That's what they do. So one of these teachers had come, and that was the first time he was in IIT. He had come in as a student. And he attended, he asked me, actually he started to work with some colleagues and myself. And he said, sir, please give me some advice. I'm very ambitious. I want to go back and make an impact on my college. That's what I'd like to be able to do. And I'd really like to know how IITians teach, or how you, IIT professors, how you teach. I want to really see you people in action. Now he had come to IIT to do his research. But we spared some time. We actually made it possible for him to attend some lectures. We said, pick some subjects in which you have some interest and please start attending the lectures. And he started to sit in the back. And we said, no, back is not probably the place. Come and sit somewhere in the middle, or try to come and sit somewhere near the front. And just go through it. Take notes and everything. Do the quizzes, whatever it is. Go through the ritual. And just observe. Make some notes. Find out how the teacher is teaching. After a week, he was speechless. He said, sir, now I believe why IITs are different. Now I believe why IITs are different. We never bother about some of these things. And the class, the discipline, the silence and so on, and the attentiveness and so on, this is a rare thing. It's not possible. I said, maybe you should even send some students to IIT. Maybe they should sit with our students and just see how students behave in a class when they're intent on learning. So this again was benchmarking. This was again was an example of benchmarking. So you don't really have to go very far to pick out benchmarking. This can be done almost anywhere. Let's get into a couple of other areas. One is software quality. I should just tell you that this is a large area because probably more money is lost per year caused by software disasters because the places where softwares are today. For example, there is a little software inside. Inside my little watch here, there is a software. This lecture being delivered by software. That's what is delivering this lecture. Yeah, there is a little bit of analog component involved, but most of it is digital. That's how you're able to see this. If you look at launches of satellites, if you look at the running of operation of airlines, if you look at various places, if you look at all the different automation that is there, everywhere you have software. But look at what has happened because of this. Some major party convention had to be cancelled because something was wrong with the Excel formula that was used in producing that worksheet. Some climate orbiter that went to Mars, it was totally lost because of the confusion between pounds and kilograms in the software. The Ariane 5 rocket, it exploded because of, again, the data conversion became too large. Denver airport could not be commissioned for a long time because of some bugs with the software that handled the baggage handling, for example. The Pentium processor had problems there. There were issues with the lookup table. The Patriot Scud, this is a huge missile disaster. That again took place because of some rounding error that took place inside the software. And the Mariner 1 that was lost. It was a Venus probe that went there. And there was a period put in place of comma in a Fortran do loop. And these are there, and there are hundreds of other examples. Software disasters are pretty big. That actually directly tells you that software also, it is an area that requires a serious attention as far as quality assurance people are concerned. Why is it this way? If you look at the progress of quality, if you look at the total progress of quality, software is stuck at the testing stage, at the inspection stage. We do not have process control in software. We have no design of excellence in software. And we have some quality management systems, but they are in terms of CII models, not CII, the SEI, the Software Engineering Institute models, the CMM models. That's what we have, some process control. Of course, we have no Six Sigma in software. So, most of software work has not moved beyond inspection. Testing is the only method by which Microsoft, for example, does its quality control. And you look at any major company, you ask them, what is your biggest expense? They say, I wish we could get rid of our testers. I wish somehow we could produce software without any bugs. We'd really have nothing. In fact, I've done personally some research in this area, and I've found that there are certain issues in design that can lead to good software, and certain issues in design that can lead to pretty poor software. That is there. So we are slowly beginning to understand the software development process. But it's still a wide area, and most of our current software quality practices, they are still testing based. Then of course, we got something called process quality that we've not done yet. There's a long way to go there. And there is the product quality aspect that also is something that's, we've got a long way to go. We've got a lot of things which is like a big list of things to do for us. And software practices today, they are nowhere near there. Something that has been done is at least people have started to look at the stages of development. And they have tried to see what could be done to try to make sure that at the end, the software that is delivered, it has good quality. One movement that has been there is the movement toward XP. XP is extreme programming. When you code a line and you test it immediately, you code a line, you test it immediately. And you code the line by finding out what the requirement is. You code just that much and you test it immediately. Then you go to the next stage, find out what the requirement is, you code that and you test it immediately. So you do code, test, code, test, code, test. If you do it this way, what are you doing? What is your quality assurance? Yes, you've modified the process a little bit, but you're still using testing as the only mode of quality assurance. So you're still at the testing stage. You're stuck on that chart that I have, when I've got inspection, then I've got SPC, then I've got DOE. You're still stuck there. Oh, there's no way you could do SPC in software. At least not today. Maybe someday. And that's going to come. That's not here yet. So where is software stuck? Software is stuck right at the beginning. Software is stuck right at the beginning, which is like software development is stuck at inspection. It's got a long way to go before we can start doing SPC or DOE or Taguchi or any of these things. That's going to be quite a ways. So yes, manufacturing is dirty work. Manufacturing involves a lot of grease and a lot of dirt and a lot of those things, crazy things, and messy clothes and everything else. And you got to have hard boots on. This is what is required in a manufacturing shop, and there is smoke, and there is oil, mist and everything else, and it smells bad and so on and so forth. By comparison, when I sit in a software room, it's a room like this. And I use the tools that I have right here, which is like a PC, and perhaps some floppies and perhaps some CDs. That's all I need. And I need my brains, and I need a computer language manual, and that's all. I can go into software business quite easily. This is a very clean work. So I'm using high tech, but in terms of practices, I'm pretty primitive. My testing method for quality assurance is, like I show on the screen here, is stuck right at the bottom. That's where it is stuck. So it's a long way to go. Software has a long way to go. I slowly move toward what we call service quality. And let's take a look at this. Let's see how far we can go with this, and whatever remains we'll cover in the next lecture. Service quality is something that is now becoming more and more important, because now many people are trying to compete through services. And let's take a look at some examples. Healthcare is a service. Professional services, they are of course services. Then financial services, hospitality, these are all, they are not manufacturing. They are all services. Most of these are services. If you look at travel and others, many of those are also services. For example, getting a haircut, that's a service. Pest control is a service, plumbing is a service, counseling is a service, any of these are. And each of these will survive only if the customer would come back. And these businesses would not survive. These businesses would not survive if the customer wouldn't come back. But what is service stuck right now? Just like software. Services, most of it is still stuck at inspection. We are not doing SPC in services. We are not doing DOE in services. We are not doing Taguchi. We are not doing any of this stuff. We are certainly not doing Six Sigma as far as services are concerned, because we don't understand the process very well yet. Each customer contact is actually called the moment of truth, because services cannot be stored. I have to deliver the service on the spot, standing in front of the customer. That's why I have to deliver my service. So you have the ability to either satisfy or dissatisfy the customer when you come in contact with him. The worst thing, of course, is like when the disaster has already taken place and I've created a customer who is not satisfied, I try to do some disaster recovery type of thing. That's like fixing things after the cow ran out of the barn or the horse ran out of the barn. That's like after the fact. And that's pretty bad actually. That's really not good practices. It's difficult to synchronize supply and demand with services. That's like something there. And like already mentioned, services cannot be returned or resold. It just cannot be done. Today, of course, unfortunately, the customer is looking for the total experience. He's looking at some product aspect, and you've seen this slide before. There is a product aspect of anything that I offer the customer. There is the service aspect also. And these are also very important. I've just taken the example of autos. So I've got the hardware part on this side. I've got the service part on this side. These are all very important. Each of them, they can make or break your business. And the same thing would go for other aspects of the product. And correspondingly, there are the corresponding aspects of services also. You'll have reliability in service, you'll have durability in service, and award-winning service, and so on and so forth, and handling of complaints. These are all there. And there are, of course, some examples, and I just put them there. Reliability and responsiveness, they are there. Assurance really means the ability to convey trust and confidence. Assurance, I assure the receiver that I'll be able to give you good service, and you're going to be enjoying the experience that you have. Being polite and showing respect for the customer. This is like an example of assurance. I'm assuring good level of service. Empathy, being a good listener, that would be one way. It's like a very important dimension in service. Then of course I've got tangibles, and in those cases there would be like physical facilities. And to try to make sure you're addressing the right things, you got to make sure you use the Kano model. I cannot overemphasize this. If you're designing a service, you got to make sure you're using the Kano model. So don't offer them bells and whistles if they don't really care to want the bells and whistles. There's a tangible component of the package that you offer. There's also an intangible component of the package that you offer a customer. Tangible components are, of course, you look at salt, soft drinks, detergent, cars, and so on and so forth. There's a huge tangible component. But then there are the other areas which is mostly intangible. For example, teaching, for example, consulting, investment management, and so on and so forth. These are going to have a pretty heavy dose of intangibles. Services are mostly in this area, and this is a mix of service and products. Why would a customer come and do business with you? Because there is the lack of a better alternative. That's why he's coming to you. And this better can be just in a variety of different ways, not only price, but also the total experience. And if you look at, if you have a dissatisfied customer, he's going to tell between 10 and 20 other people about the problem that he had with you. So this is exactly what tells you how serious customer feedback is, and word of mouth, spreading of messages in terms of doing it. And some statistics are provided here. These statistics, they are taken from industry data, and they can actually tell you how important it is for us to make sure that the customer is delighted right off the bat. The best is 1 and the worst is 10 in terms of failure to serve. For example, there are various ways, degree of severity. Rating is 1. If it is level 1, the customer will not even observe that there is an adverse effect. If you go deep into it, if you look at the worst effect, for example, there is a negative impact on the customer or people or on society. And this is going to lead, the likelihood of this is assured failure of business. And the existing controls, it seems like if this is how you're operating with rating 10, somebody gave you a rating 10 for your service quality, your existing controls will not even detect if there is any potential failure. Look at rating where we got warranty service as the means to control service quality. This is moderate failure rate without supporting documents. This is like likelihood occurrence. I mean, I may have a breakdown on the road, and that's a warranty situation. And controls are not likely to detect it or to prevent the potential failure from reaching the next customer. Controls are really, because that's why I've got warranty. Warranty is something for which I'm not totally sure, but I can live with the cost of paying the customer, the cost of replacement, or perhaps I'll provide him a free service. Compare that to this one. Compare that to rating 2, customer experience slight discomfort, low failure with supporting documents. I've got some supporting documents with which I can justify that, yes, these are the things, and this is how I can explain what the thing is. You can almost be sure that you will detect the potential failure before it reaches the next customer, because here the customer is experiencing something that is slight, and I'm able to document that. This is like something, so like there are these things, this is like a spectrum. How do I address this? I have to look at the quality gap model, and I'll just give you a glimpse of the gap model. Start with something that we call customer expectations. And the gap between that and the perception. Expectation is here. The gap is between what the customer perceives to be quality and what he expects to be quality. That is a gap. That is going to determine customer satisfaction. If these two are identical, the customer will be delighted, and perhaps he will be definitely very satisfied. To be able to understand the customer, I have to really see management customer expectations, management perception of customer expectations. If there is a difference between what management perceives to be what customer is looking for and the true expectations of the customer, I have a problem there. My problem really is understanding the customer. That is the problem there. Management has one perception, and then it sets service standards. If there is a gap there, there is a flaw in service design, because management says go and do these things, that will take care of the customer, and that's how it sets the service standards. If there is a gap there, there is a service design gap there. Of course, on this side, I've got customer perceptions and I deliver certain service. If there is a gap between those two, then I've got a communication problem there. And these are again quality gaps. Then delivery of the service and the standards. If there is a gap there, then I'm not conforming with the standards that is there. So here I've got 5 gaps. I've got customer satisfaction gap, I've got communication gap, I've got conformance gap, I've got design gap, and I've got customer market research gap. Market research gap is there when some expectations are there, but managements don't seem to register that. That's actually the most serious gap. Then of course, because everything depends on that. From gap 1, I go to gap 2. I go to service design. From there, I come to conformance. What I deliver, does that meet that? This is very, very important. Then of course, I've got managing service. I've got managing the evidence, which is like the feedback that I got between what the customer perceived it to be and what the service was. That's like something that I've got to again manage. So there could be a communication issue there. Customer perceives something, but I deliver something else. I mean, this gap is there. Take a look at this thing when you go into this. I'll be discussing more of this as we go into the design gap. And I'll start with that in the next lecture. Thank you very much.